Um, at PAVE, many of us are parents, and some who have kids who are either still vaping or have been vaping. All of our information is based on the latest science and research from public health experts. Our goal is to protect youth from vaping and nicotine use. It's important to note that we are not focused on adults who vape, we're focused on children. For those who are hearing this presentation for the first time, we hope you find it informative. And for those of you who might have heard this presentation before, we hope there will be some new information for you. We update it throughout the year as we learn about new medical findings or new issues. And have had such high demand by schools and parents that we're repeating this several times throughout the year. So please spread the word to anyone who you think might benefit. Next slide, please. Following this presentation, you'll be able to understand and recognize tobacco industry tactics, targeting our youth, explain the dangers of using e-cigarettes and other tobacco products, as well as non-nicotine vapes. Understand best practices for schools to address youth vaping, and know about resources for schools and families to prevent and treat nicotine use and addiction. It's important to note that when I speak about tobacco today, I'm referring to commercial tobacco and not traditional tobacco. Next slide, please. A little bit about our origin. It's kind of a crazy story, actually. The catalyst for PAVE was three moms having discovered in 2018 that a Juul representative had gone into their kids' schools, into their ninth grade classroom, under the guise of a health presentation. The adults left the room so the kids would feel that they could speak freely. So when the adults left the room, students were told that while it was just for adults, Juul was totally safe and that it would soon be approved by the FDA. Both of these statements obviously were untrue then and remain untrue today. When the moms learned about what had transpired, they decided to take action on the issue, and Parents Against Vaping was born. While PAVE started as a small group of committed moms, we've quickly grown into the national parent voice on the youth vaping crisis, largely through volunteers and staff across the country. PAVE currently has staff in New York, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Florida, and we have volunteers virtually in every state. We educate parents and other adults who touch the lives of youth and advocate across the country. We've been part of successful campaigns to get legislation passed across the country, and we continue to grow our volunteer network. I'm proud to say that PAVE was a key part of a congressional hearing where Juul was taken to task for their marketing practices because of the story you heard earlier about the Juul rep coming into the founder's son's school. We're fortunate to be among many in a larger coalition of public health advocates working at the state, local, and federal levels to protect our kids from the dangers of vaping and other tobacco products. We were even invited to the White House for a forum and discussion on the issue in 2019. Our main goal with our advocacy and lobbying efforts is to get all flavored tobacco products off the market that are hooking our kids. The dedication of our volunteers has been instrumental in the success of bills that have removed flavored e-cigarettes, menthol cigarettes, and/or other flavored tobacco products from the market in cities and counties in California, Colorado, Illinois, Maine, Ohio, and Oregon. PAVE was involved in the successful passage of state laws in California, Massachusetts, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, in addition to the District of Columbia. However, we all know this fight is far from over. Our efforts continue in states and localities around the country, and we need volunteers. So if you want to help or know someone who does, please contact us at parentsagainstVaping.org. PAVE, we are also active in spreading the word and awareness in the media from local to national and even on global platforms. In 2023, PAVE's co-founders were featured in the Netflix documentary, Big Vape, The Rise and Fall of Juul. As we discuss statistics, keep in mind they're constantly changing and there is often a lag in data versus current stats. The National Youth Tobacco Survey reports that in 2024, over 1.6 million kids were vaping in middle and high school. Though that shows a decrease from the 2023 numbers, which showed around 2.1 million kids vaping, and way down from the height of the epidemic around 2019, when roughly 28% of youth reported vaping. The survey also reports 38.4% of youth reported frequent use and 26.3% reported daily use. This indicates that those youth may have a strong nicotine addiction. And while we have made significant progress, we need to stay vigilant and continue to educate adults. FDA approved 20 flavored Zyn products earlier this year. These pouches contain high levels of addictive nicotine, and we are hearing from the field that these are very popular among youth. In fact, one study found there had been a 641% increase in sales of the products between 2019 and 2022, but just under 3% of US adults had ever used a nicotine pouch. This shows an alarming rate of people younger than 21 using this product. According to the latest CDC data from the National Health Interview Survey, 11% of adults ages 18 to 24 used e-cigarettes, which was the highest among all adults. Disposables are the most commonly used devices by the youth surveyed, and this statistic might be the most alarming. Almost 39% of users reported vaping 20 out of 30 days, and more than 1 in 4 users vape daily. And this is an indication of the level of addiction some youth are facing. Lastly, almost 90% of all youth users are using flavored products, and this doesn't surprise us. The tobacco vaping industry are purposefully targeting our kids with bubblegum, mango, banana, and a host of other chemically manufactured flavors that are enticing to our children. We were asked to give today's presentation by the Intertribal Council of Michigan, therefore we've included stats on the state. You'll see 16.5% of high schoolers use commercial tobacco products, and almost 14% of these students vape. Almost 56% of youths aged 13 and under tried vaping for the first time. And this should horrify everyone. Nationally, we're hearing from schools that they're seeing kids as young as 3rd and 4th grade vaping. Educators are increasingly witnessing a rise in student vaping, despite federal data suggesting a decline. A recent survey by the EdWeek Research Center found that 70% of teachers, principals, and district leaders reported more students vaping or attempting to vape in the past year. This contradicts data from the 2024 NYTS, which showed vaping among middle and high school students had dropped to 6%, down from 7.7% in 2023 and 20% in 2019. Public health officials see this decline as a success, but the gap between what educators observe and what students report raises concerns for us. One possible explanation for this discrepancy is underreporting by students, as well as differences in how and when the data were collected. However, the fact that so many school staff are seeing an increase underscores the need for continued prevention and treatment efforts. Experts warn that while vaping remains a major concern, other nicotine products, such as nicotine pouches, are also becoming more popular among students due to their discreet nature. Schools must stay vigilant, recognizing that while national stats indicate progress, the reality inside classrooms suggests the challenge is far from over. We can see by these stats that tobacco prevention efforts and public health policies were successful in decreasing the percentage of high schoolers smoking cigarettes from 27.5% in 91 down to almost 6% in 2019. We beat this, so this is so incredibly frustrating because this was gone for the most part. However, the second portion of the slide shows the introduction and heavy youth-focused marketing of e-cigarettes joining and hijacking the market, resulting in reversing the tremendous progress made by tobacco control. Had it not been for e-cigarettes, today's youth would not be using nicotine at these rates. I know my kids never would have picked up a cigarette, but they did pick up a vape. And so why is this, right? We think this information is important for both adults and kids. Adults, because it's important for us to understand that our kids have been targeted. Hopefully, this will make us more compassionate. And important for kids because youth don't like to be taken advantage of, especially by industries making money off their health. We want to make advocates of our youth and not make the next generation of lifetime customers. E-cigarettes have been heavily marketed to youth and young adults. Juul led the way in 2017 with a strong social media push that set off the youth vaping epidemic. Juul said they were trying to appeal to adult smokers to get them to switch to e-cigs, but these ads tell a completely different story. Their bright, youthful, vaporized campaign included parties with young models and DJs, using social media influencers and advertising on social media where youth go, and handing out free products at events where youth attended. Now, does this all sound familiar to you? I know it does to me because the industry is using the exact same playbook that hooked my parents' generation and that actually tried to hook unsuccessfully my generation. It's clear from these ads and these companies' actions that they are targeting youth. There have been a few cigarette companies advertising on Quizlet, if you know what that is. It's a website used by kids, usually elementary school and middle school kids, to make flashcards. These companies know that 90% of people who struggle with addiction started using substances before the age of 18. If they can get our kids hooked young, they are far more likely to have them as lifelong customers, which they need because their aging smoking customer base is dwindling. Exposure to visual social media posts featuring e-cigarette products is associated with increased use among US adolescents. Instagram is the largest platform for e-cigarette social media marketing, where influencers post promotional materials. And all of this is done under the radar. Adults don't see this advertising in their social feeds. The algorithms don't push these messages or this content onto us. We all need to be cognizant of the impact of social media marketing and factor that into public health communication and future policies. Store displays are very alluring to youth. You may have seen tobacco products displayed in gas stations, convenience stores, vape shops, all making these products look so harmless. They're often placed at eye level for kids and next to candies and other products youth would look for and buy. There's a saying, eye level is buy level, and that makes sense, right? These products are being sold wherever a kids shop, and the displays are intentionally going after kids. There is not enough enforcement of laws that protect kids where they exist, and I recommend that you check your state law to see if flavors have been banned. They have in my state, yet one sees these products absolutely everywhere. Tobacco and vape companies have a long history of strategic and aggressive marketing to specific populations, using tactics such as sponsoring of events such as gay pride events, using coupons, giveaways, handing out free products, health claims, and corporate social responsibilities activities, making it look like these companies care deeply about this population, but they don't. We know these branded events, their goal is to hook new customers. One of the most egregious examples is Big Tobacco's targeting of Black communities with menthol products and their cultural framing of menthol. Decades ago, the tobacco industry went after Black communities to initiate them into smoking with the use of menthol cigarettes. And the targeting worked. Today, over 80% of Black smokers use menthol cigarettes, including 90% of those ages 12 to 17. Menthol makes starting, smoking, and vaping easier. It numbs the throat, making smoking or aerosol less harsh to inhale, meaning you can take a deeper draw, which likely leads to a faster and deeper addiction. FDA banned all flavored cigarettes in 2009, but unfortunately, menthol was excluded from this ban. Menthol perpetuates generational use of these products. The FDA has been reviewing this issue for over a decade. In that time, research had consistently shown that ending the state of menthol cigarettes would improve public health dramatically. While we wait for the FDA, Many states and localities are pushing to enact bans on the sale of menthol cigarettes. I recommend checking to see what your state is doing. And for more information, we recommend a really great documentary, Black Lives, Black Lungs. And it's available at blacklivesblacklungs.com. And the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council also has some great information on menthol at savingblacklives.org. While only a handful of flavored tobacco products have been approved, thousands remain on the market. The FDA banned flavored pod-based devices a few years ago, but what's important to know is that this still left tens of thousands of other flavors and products on the market, like disposables and e-liquids. The market became flooded with new flavored disposable e-cigarettes, which became youth favorites. Synthetic nicotine, which is made in a lab and not derived from tobacco, was previously exempt from FDA oversight and also flooded the market. Products like Puff Bar became very popular among our kids, disposable and synthetic, so they were not regulated by FDA. Thankfully, synthetic nicotine products are now regulated at the federal level by the FDA. In June 2024, the FDA approved 4 menthol-flavored Enjoy products, and Enjoy is a subsidiary of Altria. This is incredibly concerning since almost a quarter of current high school e-cigarette users use menthol-flavored products. The FDA knows that flavors, including menthol, are attractive to kids and increase their use and addiction. About 90% of illicit vaping products without pre-market authorization come into the United States from China. No vape is safe for our kids, so we all know that, but illegal vapes are especially dangerous because we really don't know the ingredients. These flavored vapes are flowing through our ports and are being used by millions of American kids. The same exact products that the Chinese government banned for sale in their own country in 2022 to protect their children. In an attempt to evade duties and detection, many of these devices were intentionally misdeclared and changed their names and packaging. The FDA continues to work with the U.S. Customs and Border Protection to stop these illegal products from entering our ports. When the flavored pods were banned, the market was flooded with new disposable vapes, which have become teen favorites. In 2020, there was a 1,000% increase in the use of disposable vapes among high schoolers. Ounce for ounce, these are cheaper than cigarettes and cheaper than the non-disposables and have become very popular among our teens. They come in lots, actually thousands of enticing flavors. They contain a lot of nicotine. Some contain the nicotine equivalent to 1 to 2 packs of cigarettes. And we're now seeing that many have much more. The average disposable vape delivers roughly 600 to 800 puffs, but some disposables contain up to 5,000 puffs, which is equal to nearly a full carton of cigarettes. The tricky part is kids don't know how many puffs they have until the device is empty, right? So think about that. They have absolutely no idea how much of this poison they're consuming. They are easily to hide and leave no evidence, so kids can use them and throw them out before they get home from school. Brands like Lost Mary, Geek Bar, and Flume Pebble are some of the more popular ones, but there are many out on the market and they contain even more nicotine than Juul. It's a game of whack-a-mole for us, unless all flavored e-cigarettes are removed from the market, and our youth will continue to use them in various forms. And the industry keeps inventing. They're many steps ahead of us at all times. Companies have created endless variations of their products. They can be seen in the shape of games, toys, household items, school supplies like highlighters, and give nods to popular brands that resonate with youth. Note SpongeBob in the top right-hand corner. They even go as far as copying the look of an inhaler for asthma, which is sad. There are no words for that. You'll also see various forms of vapeware, like hoodies with tubes in places of strings, so kids can easily and discreetly hit their vape. You'll see backpacks with a concealed tube that tucks neatly back into the backpack after use. And I have personally seen a scrunchie, which is a type of a ponytail holder for girls with a small zippered compartment for vape storage. And now the industry has gotten really savvy with quote unquote smart vapes. They're essentially e-cigarettes equipped with Bluetooth, app integration, puff tracking, and AI-driven features that allow users to monitor nicotine intake, customize settings, and even lock devices. Some offer parental controls, fingerprint ID, or disposable designs with sensors to prevent tampering. While marketed as innovative, these features make vaping much more appealing to youth, increasing the risk of addiction. Additionally, concerns about privacy, data collection, and the broader health risks of vapes persist. Their high-tech appeal is another way the tobacco industry attracts users, making them a critical focus for public health campaigns. Next slide, please. There are other flavored nicotine products that our youth are using that I mentioned earlier, and you should know more about, and you should pay close attention. In 2024, CDC found large increases in the sale of nicotine pouches, especially mint-flavored ones. Mint or iced are other words for menthol. An estimated 480,000 students used Zyn in 2024. Zyn and other nicotine products are promoted all over social media, especially TikTok. You'll see influencers, also called Zynfluencers, who essentially are role models to kids, use these patches. One study found there has been a 641% increase in sales of the products between 2019 and 2020, but just 2.9% of US adults had ever used a nicotine pouch. This shows an alarming rate of people younger than 21 using this product. And we're hearing from schools nationwide that they're seeing a lot of Zyn in their classrooms. In January 2025, FDA authorized the marketing of over 20 flavors of Zyn. Of course, they're marketed to youth as well, and they also contain lots of nicotine and therefore are not safe for developing brains. Zyn, Pixotine, Lucy Breakers, and Knick Knack all contain nicotine. As you can see, their appearance and names are nods to common mints and fruit flavors to make them more appealing and easier to conceal. Kids may use these when they can't vape or are trying to vape less, but it is important to note that these products are not considered nicotine replacement therapy. They are essentially high-potent smokeless nicotine. Okay, there are vapes that supposedly do not contain nicotine that the industry wants kids to think promote wellness, but these products are not safe for youth. Research shows that some actually do contain nicotine, but since they are not regulated, companies can say whatever they want on their packages. Flavorings in these devices contain many of the same chemicals found in nicotine vapes and are not safe to inhale. Some of these flavorings are toxic, while others are FDA approved for ingesting. So, for example, for food additives, but they have not been approved for high heat, which turns the aerosol into liquid and inhaling into the lungs. This has not been proven safe and has not been shown to and has been shown to cause irritation and inflammation of the lungs. Some public health experts are doing research now, and so far the news on health harms isn't positive. Most recent studies indicate that these products can harm the lungs regardless of whether they contain nicotine. We need to warn our kids about them because, like e-cigarettes, it may take years before we understand the full harms caused by these products. As an expert, pulmonologists say nothing should go into kids' lungs except air. And I know that's stating the obvious, but kids really need to hear that over and over again. Even without any of the flavorings, most vapes contain propylene glycol and glycerin, which together are shown to cause inflammation in the lungs. Also, these products are being sold at places our kids shop, like Urban Outfitters, and there is no age restriction to buy them. They are largely unregulated, as I said before, so the health claims they make are unsubstantiated. Finally, these products are normalizing the behavior of vaping for kids, and we call them starter kits. And I don't know if any of you remember candy cigarettes, but I used to pretend smoking before I ate them when I was a kid. And as a matter of fact, they're actually still around because I recently saw them sold in a deli at the counter right by the cash register. While nicotine remains the most common substance used in vaping devices, more and more youth are vaping cannabis, aka weed. What's concerning is the low perceived risk of cannabis as a substance, and of vaping as a mode of consumption may bring a false sense that vaping is a healthier way to use these substances and therefore may appeal to youth. It is concerning that kids are also using nicotine as a chaser to cannabis, and conversely, youth also use cannabis to chase nicotine. Using nicotine and cannabis together enhances the reward effect in the brain. Additionally, nicotine makes the anti-anxiety and anti-pain perception of cannabis more intense, and nicotine and cannabis together may lessen each other's undesirable effects. The delta 9 THC in cannabis lessens the anxiety-generating properties of nicotine, while nicotine counteracts the sedative effects of cannabis. According to Truth Initiative, one in three teens have tried cannabis by 12th grade, and young people who use e-cigarettes are over 3 times more likely to use cannabis than those who do not. This dual use behavior contributes to cannabis dependence symptoms and makes it more challenging for youth to quit tobacco and nicotine. And finally, we have EVALI, EVALI. It stands for e-cigarette vaping lung injury. While most of the EVALI cases reported appear to be from vaping THC, or more specifically, the vitamin E acetate found in the THC, some cases reported were from people who vaped nicotine e-cigarettes only. So more needs to be discovered, but it's important to know that it's not all vaping, it's not all from vaping THC. And I recommend that you read up on this. We have a parent volunteer who came very close to losing her child because of this. He was not a big vapor, but was subject to secondhand aerosol by his roommates vaping. This disease enveloped his lungs, described as like the rind from brie cheese, making breathing next to impossible. Fortunately, one of his doctors at NYU Langone had written a paper on EVALI and knew what to do. If he hadn't, he was possibly facing a double lung transplant. Here are some risks and perceived benefits by youth of marijuana use. For youth, perceived benefits almost always outweigh any risks. Youth say they feel good while using it, believe it helps with stress and anxiety, helps with sleep, and they can forget about their problems. However, they don't often acknowledge the risks, which include lack of motivation, a decrease in academic performance, and the possible increase in mental illness. THC, as I had mentioned earlier, is the main active ingredient, which causes a psychoactive response or high when taken. Several studies indicate a link between cannabis use and an increased risk of mental health disorders such as schizophrenia, depression, and anxiety, especially in individuals who are genetically predisposed. Some other symptoms of someone experiencing a high or the intoxication from cannabis include skin sensations, memory loss or inability to recall certain memories, pleasure or bliss, paranoia or fright, and an altered perception of time and space. These effects are the results of THC acting on different parts of the body. The American Lung Association and National Institute on Drug Abuse have found that since cannabis smoke is typically held in the lungs for a longer period of time, it can leave up to 4 times the amount of tar as cigarettes do in your lungs. When asked which is safer, vaping or traditional cigarettes, we like to emphasize that none of these are healthy for youth. The nicotine in vapes is not the same as the nicotine found in traditional cigarettes. The nicotine salt technology makes these a more potent form of nicotine designed to hit the bloodstream and brain quickly and can lead to an alluring head rush. Today, disposable e-cigarettes have nicotine levels similar to several cartons of cigarettes, with average nicotine strength increasing 294% in the span of 5 years, while price drops have nearly tripled the purchasing power for kids. As we said earlier, some vapes can contain upwards of 5,000 puffs, and youth finish an average disposable vape much quicker than they would a pack of cigarettes. So they're designed for faster addiction, easier initiation. Kids can and do use them anywhere, day or night, without being caught. And kids just don't know how much they vape until it's empty. And of course, with cigarettes, you do know. Many kids will say it's just flavored water, which my kids did, because they believe they believe it because due to what I like to say, the evil genius of tobacco vape companies. The name alone, vape, connotes water vapor. While there's no water at all in these products, it's an aerosol, and the flavoring itself is harmful. All of these chemicals on this slide have been found in e-cigarette and pod-based aerosol. Not every chemical is found in all vapes. It will vary by flavor, brand, etc. But the chemicals on this slide have been found in vapes. While it's not common, vapes containing lithium batteries have been known to explode. Kids have been burned, teeth have been blown out, and it's terrifying. The ones in red are FDA's known harmful and potentially harmful substances, some of which are known to cause cancer. Some of these are the same chemicals found in traditional cigarettes. While labels show only a few ingredients, studies have shown that there can be far more ingredients in e-cigarettes than what's on the label. And I'll repeat myself here because it's important to know e-cigarettes produce aerosol, not vapor, as the industry suggests. If they named it aerosoling, kids may never have tried it. Many of the chemicals on this list may be approved for consumption as food additives, i.e. eating, but not for heating, mixing other chemicals and inhaling them into the lungs. When some chemicals are heated and combined, their properties change and the result could be harmful to kids. Even the device itself, without any of the chemicals, can be harmful because they contain plastics and metal coils that when heated repeatedly may break down and tiny particles can be inhaled into the lungs. This is probably one of the most compelling pieces of information because we know that these products are harmful to developing brains and bodies, and brain development continues until around the age of 25. However, a neuropsychiatrist recently told me it may be as late as 28 or even 30 in some cases. Developing brains are more sensitive to nicotine or really any addictive substance for that matter, and more prone to addiction. 90% of those with substance use disorders started before the age of 18. Lungs continue developing into our late 20s and maybe even longer. Teenagers' lungs are at their strongest point ever. While many feel effects on their lung capacity while they are young, many of them may not feel respiratory symptoms currently because their lungs are still young. Nicotine also impacts the heart in many ways, as listed on this slide. Additional risks include DNA damage in the cells of the mouth and further negative impact on the mouth microbiome. We've heard of many reports of seizures from nicotine poisoning. Nicotine and vaping in general has been shown to weaken the immune system, not to mention the germ spread by sharing devices with peers. Nicotine can cause GI issues and weight loss, as well as increased risk for prediabetes and high blood sugar. This may not be as much of a concern, but vaping and having unhealthy lungs can increase the risk of COVID-19 and can cause more severe symptoms. As I mentioned earlier, most kids who start vaping start with a flavored product, and 90% of users use flavored products. Though data shows that at least 25% of those using flavored products use mint/menthol, we're quite confident that this is much higher because there are many flavored products that include menthol along with a fruit or other flavor. They are typically called iced products because of the cooling effect. So kids using, for example, iced mango or iced blue raspberry, may not know or report that they are using a menthol product, but it would be easier and less harsh for them to use for sure. Calling a flavored ice may be simply a sneaky way for companies to avoid using the word menthol. Um, we hear from our medical experts that there is generally connection between substance use and mental health. Often kids will use drugs like nicotine to self-medicate if they have underlying or undiagnosed mental health issues like anxiety or depression. The use of nicotine often becomes a form of coping with the everyday stressors that youth experience, and they don't understand that nicotine can actually make their symptoms worse. We know that kids will also vape because of social pressures to fit in and to feel like they are behaving like adults and are growing up. Because of this new form of nicotine found in these e-cigarettes, kids get a strong head rush within seconds that is very alluring and addicting to kids. When kids hear safer than cigarettes, they hear safe, but these products, as we know, are far from safe. Again, our focus is on youth and not adults, and we know these products are definitely not safe for kids. And finally, accessibility and affordability. These products have been very accessible to teens, as we all know, even though it's illegal to sell to anyone under 21. They have been able to buy them at convenience stores, gas stations, smoke and vape shops with very little difficulty. While some shops try to do the right thing and ask for ID, many do not, and kids know exactly where they can buy the product. Not only are these products accessible, but they're also affordable. E-cigarettes are actually less expensive than less expensive combustible cigarettes. Vapes, like other products, they're stealthy by design. It's important to know what they look like. As I said earlier, these devices don't look like anything bad, and they often look like pens or highlighters, and the small bottles of e-liquids look or could look like any small household product. Take a minute to see if you can spot any devices in this slide. As you can see, the arrows point out the devices. These are vape pens, disposables, and non-disposable vaping products. They become very alluring because they're easy to hide and use right under the noses of parents and other adults. I mentioned vapeware earlier, clothing like hoodies created to house your vape and conceal your vapor in plain sight. Now, we feel it's important to mention this, that the kids are not bad that are using these products. They are the victims here. They're being controlled by these highly addictive products, and it's important to know that the industry is teaching kids online how to hide these things from parents and adults. And in fact, we have a back to school social media campaign on this topic that's breaking on Monday that I suggest you take a look at. So if you want to know about hiding spots that you would never suspect or even think about looking, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. It's often signs of teen vaping. It's often difficult for parents and adults to identify signs of teen vaping because often the signs associated are just too similar to typical adolescent behavior or attitude. But if we pay attention, we might see small changes that over time could possibly add up. Frequent or long bathroom uses, going outside often, or in poor weather. A sweet smell from the sweetest flavored vapor. Remember, these products produce aerosol, which sticks to things like hair and clothing, or use of air freshener to mask a smell, increase in cough or nosebleeds, unusual items lying around like colorful caps or things that look like school supplies. Many kids will become more anxious and irritable and even have angry outbursts. This could be a sign that your child is struggling with addiction and possibly withdrawal. Know that the half-life of nicotine is on average 90 minutes. Also be aware of where kids are spending their money. If they have Venmo, Apple Pay, or other payment apps, credit cards, or a checking account with more cash withdrawal than normal, check them once in a while. and it's also quite easy to buy online. So watch for packages that seem frequent or unusual. And this is exactly how I discovered that my kids were vaping. Amazon delivered a box of them to my doorstep during COVID lockdown. And also know it's very simple to buy them on social media platforms such as Snapchat and Instagram. Did something happen to our slides?
Yeah, one sec, I'm bringing them right back up.
Okay. I'm on 37. Okay, how do you talk to your child about vaping? If you found your child is vaping or using nicotine pouches or other products, you might be angry, frustrated, and even feel embarrassed. But the conversation really needs to come from a place of empathy and compassion. And I know this is extremely hard. I handled this very poorly at the beginning myself. Just know that addiction hides in the shadows because of the shame that comes from doing something that you can't control and know deep down isn't healthy. When deciding to talk to your child or another youth, it's best to prepare for the conversation, having a general understanding of the issue and be open to learn from them and listen. Let them do a lot of the talking. As a trusted adult, come from a place of no judgment, have a conversation, not a lecture, be patient and listen. Try to use their language and the current terminology if you can. You can try asking questions to understand why they vape, like are they feeling anxious or depressed? Are they feeling pressure from their friends? Are they trying to fit in? Avoid, if you can, direct questions like, you aren't vaping, are you? This will put them, of course, on the defensive and almost automatically deny using. Unfortunately, these conversations need to start earlier than any of us would like, as early as elementary school. By middle school, kids have been exposed to vaping or already using themselves. Parenting expert Julie Ross suggests talking with kids before adolescence allows you to get knowledge into their brains before they reach the stage of exposure, use, and invincibility. She states it is crucial to keep the lines of communication open, avoid sarcasm, and stay non-judgmental. Don't ask questions you already know the answer to. Stay curious. Always underreact, which is hard, and push pause. Having difficult conversations with your child is about timing and technique, and give yourself time to script yourself. Finally, if you suspect an addiction or an underlying mental health issue, seek out professional help and talk to a provider. Given the situation, there may be a need for behavioral therapy or nicotine replacement therapy, or a combination of both. Make a plan that's acceptable for both of you and offer support. Parent behavior is a predictor of kids' behavior. If you have to smoke or vape, don't do it in front of the kids, but also be open to your own habits and struggles if asked. Kids obviously don't respond well to the don't do, or as I do, or to do as I say, not as I do. My mother used to say that. We feel that a no shame, no blame attitude is best in this situation. Our kids were fooled into thinking these products were safe for them to use. And many of them still feel safe. And the kids that I've talked to, they actually feel like they're stupid. They've actually used that word, that they're hooked and that they're having a very hard time quitting. Also interesting to know, peer-reviewed research from Truth Initiative shows that exposure to smoking imagery in streaming shows can triple a young person's odds of starting to use e-cigarettes. So that's a good opportunity to talk to our kids about what they see and not to emulate it. Now we need to help them understand the facts so they can make informed decisions. And if you're angry, and if you're as angry, frustrated, and scared as we are, and you feel like you want to take action, we would love for you to join us and become a PAVE advocate or educator or both. We desperately need parents who want to see change happen. When supporting your teen to quit, talk to their pediatrician or possibly a pediatric pulmonologist, or reach out to your local health department or school counselor for resources in your area. Though nicotine replacement therapies aren't necessarily suited for kids under 18, your provider can guide you through any options that might be appropriate. As with any addiction, relapse is normal. Continue to have open conversations with your child. And we know adults can take as many as 20 to 30 quit attempts to actually stop. There are a few quit apps geared towards young people. The Truth Initiative has a digital quitting program called X Program for both youth and adults, and smokefree.gov has the Quit Start app. When it comes to school support, restorative practices and policies for schools, we have sourced information from experts who have worked to create effective programs to support youth. We are choosing to use the term restorative practices, which focuses on supporting the health and well-being of the student and providing them with needed resources after they break school policy. We want to advocate for supportive discipline, which focuses on preventing student behavior problems, intervening early, and responding fairly and justly while promoting accountability and connection. So we're not advocating for no consequences, but feel that this approach fosters a safe and supportive learning environment that decreases discipline problems, reduces addiction, and promotes recovery. It's a win-win for the student, their family, and the school. By implementing restorative practices, districts support recovery from nicotine addiction and give students tools to resist the peer pressure to use nicotine products. There is no one clear approach, but we encourage schools to consider a holistic approach and find appropriate methods to meet their students where they are and provide the support and guidance they need to make healthy choices. We have come up with an extensive list of resources to implement restorative practices in your school or district. There are several types featured depending on your needs. Take the time to explore our website and find the best one for your community. It's parentsagainst.vaping.org/ATS. So take the time to explore and find the best one that fits your community. Also, PAVE is sponsoring a free virtual event on this topic on September 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're having a timely conversation with restorative practice expert, Leanne Dodge. Leanne has led transformative policy changes in schools, replacing zero tolerance approaches with practices that keep students engaged, connected, and supported while addressing the substance use head on. So go to parentsagainstvaping.org and sign up for our newsletter to receive an email to register. Next, I'll cover a few of our programs. The first is POISON, and it stands for Parents Opposing the Illegal Sales of Nicotine. This was created in response to inadequate enforcement of laws across the country. We all know now that flavored vape and nicotine products remain easily accessible to underage youth. For instance, in New York City, despite enacted legislation that banned the sale of flavored vapes, parents have continued to report that these products are still widely available. The goal of POISON in New York City was to empower parents to assess their neighbors and report violations of e-cigarette laws through a simple smartphone tool. Our resulting data led to store inspections, violations, fines, and sometimes even store closures. Not only do parents and others feel that they can actually make a difference in their communities, but POISON data has actually affected real change. In fact, I started my tobacco control journey with PAVE in 2020, working on their POISON effort in Westchester County, New York. So if anyone is interested in starting a POISON committee in your area, email us at advocacy@parentsagainstvaping.org. PAVE offers an opportunity for parents and adults to get involved by educating in their community. Once trained as a community educator, you will have access to PAVE's Educator Toolkit that provides all the materials needed to hold a presentation similar to this one in your own community. We also provide the presentation materials in Spanish. I am conducting our next training for parents in October so that they can educate members of the PTSA or PA or neighborhood groups. We've also had great success with training schools, state and local departments of health, and community focus groups. So please reach out if you're interested to education@parentsagainstVaping.org. PAVE knows that today's youth are interested and passionate about environmental and social justice practices. Created for and with the input of teens in response to parents' complaints that kids are dismissive of health warnings, Vapes Are Trash uses social media messaging and other tactics like tabling events, community cleanups, etc., to highlight vaping's devastating environmental impact on humans, animals, and nature. We share that the parts and pieces that make up an e-cigarette, especially disposable ones, are not truly disposable because they contain nicotine and other chemicals that are harmful to the environment and animals, as well as plastics, metals, and batteries that can harm the environment, making it very difficult to dispose of responsibly and safely. Our hope is that youth will become advocates against the industry that not only targets them, but also harms the environment they care so deeply about. And perhaps they will make the connection that if these products harm the earth and other living things, that it's also harmful to them. So this comes to the end of the presentation. We are a small and young organization, and we are powered by volunteers across the country. We would greatly appreciate it if you could use this QR code to answer a few questions about the presentation and provide feedback for us, because that will only help us get better at what we do, and we would greatly appreciate it. And you could also sign up to volunteer with us this way. Finally, but very importantly, we're a nonprofit, and our crucial work is only possible through the generous donations of people like you. So please donate if you're able to, so we can continue to provide our programming across the country. You may be aware federal departments and funding sources have been recently eliminated by DOJ. So funding we're expecting to be decreased next year. If you're able, please donate online using the QR code or through our website. And again, any amount would be greatly appreciated. Thank you very much for your time today. Again, we greatly appreciate it, and we hope to hear from you.
Thank you, Lori. And thank you, everybody, for joining today's Healthy Native People Coalition meeting. Your collaboration and commitment are vital to advancing health in our Native communities. Together, we are creating meaningful, lasting change, and we appreciate your efforts and look forward to connecting again at our next meeting. If there's a presentation topic that you'd be interested in learning about, or if you had a topic that you'd like to present on, feel free to reach out to me and we'll see if we can schedule something. The link for continuing education credits is in the chat. And thank you very much to Lori, Austin, and PAVE for joining us today. It was great to have you.
Well, thank you for having us. And I just noticed someone had asked, or a couple people have asked for the QR code link to be put back up. Can we do that just for a couple more seconds? Austin, is that possible?
Yes, give me 1 second.
Thank you.
Well, I think they may be asking for the CE credit survey link, so I just want to double check, but I'll bring it up the QR code.
I will send out the slides and the recording of this webinar to everybody that registered, most likely Monday next week. So you'll definitely have it early next week.